This is the 3D Viewmaster Bible story, Noahs Ark. Viewmaster Reel 1. Picture 1. Only a few generations after God created Adam and Eve, man had multiplied, spreading over the face of the earth. People grew more evil every day, fighting and killing one another, until violence filled the world. God grieved as he looked upon their sinfulness and said, I will destroy men from the face of the earth, for it sorrows me that I have created them. Picture 2. In the land watered by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, there lived a just and righteous man, Noah, who loved God and his fellow man. Even wild animals and birds trusted Noah and his family. One day, a light from heaven shone on Noah, and he heard the voice of God. The earth is filled with violence. Behold, I bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh. God told Noah to build an ark of gopher wood, and described how it should be built. He added, With thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. Picture 3. And Noah obeyed the voice of God. On a clay tablet he drew a plan of the ark for his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Even the birds and animals seemed interested as Noah explained. The ark will be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 3 stories high. A cubit was about 18 inches. Let us arise and go to the forest and cut the largest trees for timber, said Japheth, stroking an inquisitive squirrel. Picture 4. The 3 brothers journeyed to the forested hill country. Japheth felled trees with his axe. Ham split the logs with a wedge, and, after they were split, Shem shaped them into timber with an adze. Later the men used oxen to drag the timber down to their home valley. Picture 5. Noah and his sons labored many years to build the ark, which was 450 feet long by modern measurement, as large as many of today's ocean-going ships. When it was built, they smeared it with pitch to make it watertight. The pitch was asphalt, which they dug from the ground. Picture 6. God told Noah to warn the world that the flood was coming. Anyone who believed in God could join Noah's family in the ark and be saved. As the days passed and the ark grew, Noah repeatedly lifted up his voice and warned the people, but nobody believed him. Travelers passing by ridiculed the labor of Noah and his sons. Where will these mad men find water to float their ship? They asked, and they laughed in scorn. Picture 7. While the men built the ark, their wives gathered food for the family and for the animals that would be taken with them into the ark. One day, Noah's wife was sorting dates, Japheth's wife picking grapes, Ham's wife binding grain, and Shem's wife gathering spices. A little rabbit came hopping up to them. Noah's wife offered it a date to eat, but it twitched its nose in refusal. Ham's wife laughed at it. Come here and I will give you some grain, she called. Viewmaster Reel 2. Picture 1. In process of time, the ark was finished, and the women brought to it the provisions which they had gathered. In the area set aside for them by the men, they stored the jugs and baskets of food. Some fruits and herbs they hung up for drying. Bins along the wall were filled with hay. Picture 2. On the day the ark was completed, God warned Noah that the flood would begin in 7 more days. His sons were worried. How will we gather all the animals in that time? They asked. And how will lions and lambs ever lie down together in the same ark? But trusting in God, Shem and Japheth went out. They found 2 tigers, which snarled at them until Shem prayed, "O God, reveal us to thy purpose." Suddenly the tigers became tame and allowed him to tie his rope around their necks. Picture 3. A light from heaven shone on them as they led the tigers like pet sheep. "Now I understand," said Japheth. "God will cause the animals to follow us into the ark, if we have faith and belief." Picture 4. During the 7 days, animals and birds of every kind, some of them strange even to Noah, arrived from all parts of the earth. God had guided them on their long journeys so that they would all arrive at the ark during that week. Shem and Japheth formed the animals into a long line, 2 by 2. In a miraculous procession, they began moving slowly toward the ark. Noah stood at the door to count them, while Ham and the women remained inside the ark to place the animals and birds in the quarters prepared for them. Picture 5. As Noah watched, he felt that God had given these beasts an almost human understanding. Even the lions looked upon him with friendly eyes, and it seemed that the animals could understand one another without speech. The 2 cats entered the ark, with their tails lifted high like banners, and looked back at the lions as if to say, "Behold, we are kinsmen." Picture 6. Inside, Ham and his wife were busy getting the creatures used to their new quarters. She took the gibbons in her arms and lifted them to their perch. A bear and a dog touched noses in friendly greeting. The long-necked giraffes craned their heads upward to become acquainted with their new neighbors, the long-necked flamingos. Behind him, the leopards, among the gaudiest of the animals, were making friends with the brightly colored peacocks. "Who?" asked the owls, peering suspiciously up at the inquisitive cats. Suddenly, the scent of rain drifted through the open door of the ark. Shem and Japheth, their hair and shoulders wet, came running in. Noah, with sorrow in his heart for the people who had rejected God, tried to shut the heavy door, but it would not budge. Picture 7. Just then, 2 tortoises came waddling in through the door, leaving wet tracks behind them. "Those slow-moving tortoises were the last in line," said Shem. "We almost forgot them, but God did not." Outside, lightning flashed and thunder boomed. Again, Noah bent his weight against the door, and this time it swung shut easily, as though God were helping him. Viewmaster Reel 3, Picture 1. The rain became a torrent, for God had opened the floodgates of heaven. The fountains of the great deep were broken up, and violent eruptions in the earth's surface caused huge geysers of water to shoot upward from under the ground. Thunder crashed. Forked lightning split the sky and illuminated the terrible scene. The people who had refused to believe Noah began to shout in terror. They rushed to the ark and pounded on the door. "Let us in," they cried, but it was too late. Their cries were muffled by the crackle of thunder and the drumming of rain. Soon Noah and his family felt the ark lurch slightly and begin to float. It rocked gently as the water rose and the plains became a sea. Picture 2. For 40 days and nights the rain beat down upon the earth. The flood increased until it covered the tallest mountains, and the world was a vast shoreless ocean. Upon it bobbed the great ark like a tiny cork. Would God remember it? Picture 3. Inside the ark, all was peaceful and harmonious. The 8 people and the animals settled into a routine. Now it was feeding time, and the animals were eager and expectant. On the lower deck, Japheth's wife knelt to pour drinking water for the 2 antelope. The camels waited patiently, and the pelicans came flapping up to investigate. The ducks swam in the cistern, which she had left uncovered temporarily. The elephants, with their trunks, had helped themselves to some of the hay which Shem's wife was carrying to the kangaroos and llamas on the upper deck. There Shem was bringing a net full of fish to feed the wolves and polar bears. The monkeys clowned on a rope, and the jungle fowl, ancestors of modern chickens, clucked hungrily. Picture 4. After 40 days, the steady patter of rain on the roof stopped. Noah looked out the window and saw blue sky. With lifted hearts, the family ventured onto the outer deck. A few animals followed them, including one of the tamed tigers. Eagerly they breathed the fresh air. "Blessed by thou, O Lord our God," said Noah, "who hast not forgotten thy chosen ones." Picture 5. However, the ark was destined to drift for another 110 days. God sent a wind over the earth, causing the waters to recede slowly. One day, 5 months after the day when the flood began, they felt the ark touch ground. It had settled on Mount Ararat, a peak on the border of modern Iran and Turkey. Gradually the tops of surrounding mountains emerged as islands. Noah began to send out birds to determine if the lowlands were becoming dry. The first, a raven, did not return. The second, a dove, at first found no resting place and came back to the ark. A week later, Noah sent her out again. That evening she returned, carrying an olive leaf in her beak. Noah drew her in. "Praise God," he cried out. "The trees are above water. Soon we can leave the ark." The dove seemed to him a symbol of peace, for the earth was beginning to recover from its catastrophe, and life would go on. Picture 6. A year and 10 days had gone by since the beginning of the flood. The earth was green again. Noah heard the voice of God. "Go forth from the ark, bring with thee every living thing, that they may be fruitful and multiply upon the earth." The door of the ark swung open, and sunlight poured in. Once more Noah took his station at the door, while the others hurried to supervise the animals' departure. Shem rubbed the ears of the pet tigers affectionately. Japheth's wife wept as she threw her arms around the antelope's graceful neck. "Soon they will all be wild again," she sobbed. The animals and birds scurried out of the ark, down the hill, each to find a new home and begin filling the empty earth with life again. A meadow lark issued a glad, wild challenge in song. Earth's long stillness was broken. Picture 7. Noah built an altar of stones and led his family in worshiping God on the mountaintop. Then the voice of God came to them from heaven. Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. Behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your descendants, and with every living creature. Never again shall all life be destroyed by the waters of a flood, nor shall there be any more floods to destroy the earth. This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature for perpetual generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for the token of a covenant between me and the earth. In the sky before them a rainbow began to take shape. It glowed brightly, and their hearts were filled with gladness as they looked upon its beauty. And they heard the words of God. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. We want to add new videos every day, so please subscribe to our channel.
And if you had fun, thumbs up